Hey guys, Pedro here to tell you about the latest from Powerflo Guerrilla Warfare out November 1st on New Damage Records. The album has 10 tracks, 38 minutes in length, and this is the band's second full-length studio album. They are an American metal band. Now, when it comes to the design of this record, I feel like that is probably the easiest part to assess. There's not much to it. It's just 10 songs, 38 minutes. Doesn't really matter how they put them together. It's about the individuality of the tracks and what they offer. It's about making a record filled with songs that hit hard, that have a live experience to them. Perhaps you could look at this album from a set list point of view as far as the track listing is concerned, but I think that would be looking a little bit too deeper into it. It's just a collection of 10 songs built like a compilation. Enjoy the individual tracks and just go with the flow. Don't worry about anything else. The album is not trying to provide you a journey, a path, or a roller coaster ride. It's just really 10 songs, all of them hitting very hard. And they hit hard because the sound on this album has heaviness, it has grooviness, it has great melody. I also love some of the samples that they added to the songs in order to better paint the vivid picture of what the lyrical content is all about. So it's a lot easier for a listener to feel the mood of some of these tracks if the samples behind the track allow you to see exactly where this song is coming from and what it's trying to portray. So it's an album that sound-wise feels a little bit more rich than its predecessor, than the debut record. It definitely feels like a more mature album, an album that had a little bit more work going into it. It still keeps that live vibe attitude, that set list style approach, with songs that are meant to be heard live a lot more than be heard in a studio setting. So the album keeps a lot of the momentum and a lot of the elements that the debut record had. It just increases a little bit what it offers from a textural standpoint, and that is what makes this album a lot more rich sound-wise. Like I said, with the heaviness, with the grooviness, with the samples, with great production that brings the guitars into the forefront. This is a very guitar-focused record. I wouldn't go as far as to say a guitar-centric record, but it's definitely a guitar-focused album that allows all of the main elements, all of the main attributes of the overall soundscape to be driven by the guitars first and foremost. Then comes the drums and bass, really complementing the sound experience, adding substance to the heaviness, adding power, adding to a certain degree a little bit of street cred, because the way the sound comes together with that live experience, it really feels like an album built for the streets. It has that vibe, and it has that vibe also from a vocal standpoint and obviously a lyrical content as well. So it's an album that has still a lot of raw elements to it. It's not a complete departure from its predecessor, but a better album sound-wise all around from a production standpoint as well. And I love those guitars being the main focal point, but I also enjoyed the drum sound, the power that it has, the bass popping quite a bit throughout the record, not consistently, and I think that's a good way of approaching the bass sound on an album like this. You want to infuse a little bit of darkness here and there. You want to add perhaps a little bit more grooviness to the overall sound. The bass can do both, but allowing the bass to go in and out of the mix and not necessarily putting it in the forefront on every single track makes things a little bit more exciting. It makes songs a little bit easier to digest, and it doesn't become as jarring to the ears of the listener as having that experience always there and sometimes overshadowing what you actually need to be in the forefront, which is, once again, those guitars. Now, when it comes to the vocals, Sanddog absolutely kills it. Great delivery throughout the entire record, and on top of that great delivery, one of the things, or one of the elements that I really like about the band, and obviously I really like about this album, is using those backing vocals in order to create, once again, that street, that live atmosphere, bringing that into the songs. Elements that I've seen for so many years on being used by Biohazard, by Billy Bio on his own stuff, but also on Cypress Hill stuff. It adds a different mood, it adds a different attitude, it brings that more hardcore street sound into the studio when you have those vocals, those backing vocals I just feels like it gives the songs a completely different approach, a completely different perspective, a completely different texture. And on this album, they use them throughout the record, but I never felt like they went to that well one too many times. It was always appropriate with the style of the song, with the approach on the song, and keeping Sandog on the forefront on every single track, having him be the catalyst for the lyrical content works extremely well on a record that has this sort of sound, that has this sort of heaviness, this sort of hit, and also this sort of grooviness, mixing in elements of hardcore, new metal, with a little bit more death metal as well, even melodic death metal. I found that some songs on this record melodically surprised me because they went a little bit beyond what I was expecting, which was going to be a more traditional hardcore sounding album. So it's an album that has a lot of different spices, has a lot of different perspectives, and once again, adding all of that together makes this a better record than its predecessor, a much richer sounding album all around. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with I'm a Killer. This is the opening song, and I feel on an album like this that's kind of built like a compilation, the two most important songs is the one that opens and the one that closes. You want to open with a banger because you want the listener to immediately be hooked with the record, and you want to close with a banger as well because you want the listener to go back to the beginning and start listening to the album all over again. This record does both things, but I honestly enjoyed this opening track, I'm a Killer, because it's a song that really sets the mood, it sets the tone musically, vocally, lyrically for what the entire album is going to be all about. It has such a great vibe. It's a chorus that feels a lot more open, less of a banger in the chorus, a little bit more maybe fun is a good word to describe it. That openness that it has musically, it also has that vocally, but then it has these chugging riffs in the verses that make the verses very impactful, very heavy, with a great presence. It also uses some samples later down the road with some church bells to create a more ominous vibe, a more sinister vibe, but that adds to the overall grooviness of the song. It adds to the overall atmosphere of the song. Once again, using those samples really well in order to paint a better picture of what the track is all about, of what the lyrical content is trying to put forward, really bringing a lot of life and energy to an absolute banger of a song. And talking about bangers, the next two are definitely that. Headstrong and Isolation, back to back. Headstrong is one of the best songs on the record. From a guitar standpoint, the solos on this track are insane and I love them. A lot of old school heavy metal elements opening up with a solo. It has a lot of great quality from that perspective. It's a really guitar rich song all around. A lot of melody in this song. Is not just about the chugginess of the riffs or the melody that you're going to get out of the chorus. Is also about having some sense of aggression and intensity, and you're going to get that from both guitars and drums when it comes to the verses of the song. It has a really cool vocal performance throughout, a really energetic one that matches the overall intensity and aggression of the track. But once again, it's all about the guitar sound, it's all about the solos, it's all about the brightness and the energy that infuses an absolute banger of a track, Headstrong. And then right after, Isolation. Like, this one wasn't enough. You get another one that has a lot of the same condiments, but a little bit more direct, a little bit more narrow, a little bit more driven, still very dynamic vocally, creating a live experience and making that live experience feel like it's happening right in front of you. While Headstrong has a little bit more texture to the sound, and I'm a Killer has even more, Isolation has a lot of the same condiments, but not having that same texture makes the song, like I said, feel a little bit more narrow, a little bit more direct, and there's some melodic, almost death metal elements into the overall melody of the sound, but that adds a nice grit to the way the track comes across, and it really makes this a great sounding song all around. Having the bass pop in this song doesn't hurt. It gives it that extra grooviness that the track really needs because, like I said, it's a more narrow driven song all around. So great track, great combination of two songs in the middle of the record to just kind of reignite the experience for that last part, for that side B, if you will, of what the album is going to be bringing to you. This is it, Powerflo, Guerrilla Warfare, out November 1st on New Damage Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Hit me up in the comment section. I'll see you all at the next video. Take care, guys.